Shadow of the... Wait, sorry, hang on, let me just skip this. Sorry. I always start a little early. Wait, right there. Shadow of the Colossus. A beloved, wholesome, and heartfelt memory of my childhood. This iconic PlayStation title is among those that help blur the line between art and video games. And yet, for a world so desolate, with so much to discuss, there is one thing people often agree on, that Dormin is the villain. But is he really? Well, my name's Demitri, and that is what we are going to explore. If you have never played Shadow of the Colossus, I suggest you pause for a moment to heed this spoiler alert. Very well, let's get down to business. Quite frankly, there aren't very many characters in Shadow of the Colossus in the first place, and they can all neatly and tidily fit into just a few groups. Firstly, there's our necrophiliac protagonist Wanda, alongside the victim of his obsession, the 2 weeks past expiration date lady friend Mono, and of course the adorably loyal mare Agro, their best friend. Then there's Dormin, the all-knowing and quite perversively all-seeing Mr. Demon of Heaven himself, as well as the 16 Colossi, all of whom together serve as the main antagonist. Last but not least, you can't even tell that Fumito Ueda skipped his morning coffee when he came up with these guys. No sir. Enter the barely present, somehow important, and totally not plot-convenient tribesman, Lord Emon. Oh, and his minions. Certainly not many characters to decide who to crown our big bad, so how hard can it be? After all, according to this Reddit poll that was posted just 5 years ago with a whopping 130 votes, there seems to be a general consensus that, well, of course Dormin's the villain. He's the epitome of a dark, anti-heretical, duotone demon. Case closed, the story's over. No need to continue the video. Thanks for watching, please leave a like and yada yada yada. But wait.
Well, hang on.
I hear someone in the back say...
Wander invaded the Forbidden Lands, doing exactly as he was ordered not to do, makes a deal with an evil demon, and kills 16 innocent creatures who would have done no harm. He must be the bad guy.
Well, dear person in the back, I have something of an argument against that very notion. You see, the Colossi aren't exactly animals or creatures at all. You'd be wise to remember that Dormin's corporeal body was fractured into pieces, sealed away deep in the middle of a desolate valley, and his soul encapsulated into a sacred shrine, never to escape again. Those pieces he was split into are lovingly called the Colossi, and that androgynous voice coming from the magnifying glass in the roof is proof of his soul being bound to the land. Wait, what was I talking about again? However, there is no ignoring the fact that our pasty white land of the rising sun Hercules quite literally made a deal with the devil, all because he misses his little girlfriend, which, if you ask me, is quite strong evidence to suggest he isn't the cookie-cutter hero he's made out to be. Nonetheless, I find this evidence to be insufficient in proving that Wander is our terrible tyrant. Shifting back to Dormin, let us take a look at his criminalizing, crimes.
The truth is obvious.
Well, it appears that he's done nothing wrong. That we know of. See, there aren't exactly any clues as to what the demonic Dormin could have done prior to the events of the game. Thus, we are forced to cast judgment based on his actions that we do see. Wander comes to the Forbidden Lands of his own volition, having heard the man upstairs can bring back his lethargic, languorous, slothful, and good-for-nothing bride. Dormin confirms this rumor and proposes an offer, but warns Wander that there would be a heavy price to pay. Despite this, our doting dimwit foolishly accepts anyway, and eventually Dormin keeps his word. He brings Mono back from the Dia de los Muertos fiesta at the cost of trying to hitch a ride in Wander's meat suit. Nevertheless, having admonished Wander and keeping his promise, Dormin was up to no such trickery that land him the unsavory title of villain. His hands are clean, at least from what we see in the game, and any sin Mono committed to deserve her dirt nap isn't explained either. And with that, all of our main characters are off the chopping block. So, let's take a look at Lord Iman and his merry men. I specifically separate Lord Iman from the others because appearing precisely 6 minutes into the game does not automatically earn you the title of relevant. This self-righteous owl-faced clown interrupts our regularly scheduled demon summoning ritual to give us a history lesson. And after that, he screws off for the rest of the game, except for the occasional moment we see him prancing around on his little pony. Anyway, in the end, he appears just in the nick of time to be the fashionably late hero, witnessing the stone-cold murder ritual come to an end, and watches in horror as Dormin repurposes Wander's moribund body, manifesting into only a modicum of what he used to be. We all get old and rusty eventually, even sordid spirits, I suppose. Nevertheless, the newly reborn infantile Dormin succumbs to the efforts of Iman and his E-men. The spooked and terrified chieftain manages to climb to the top of the spiral chamber for, dramatic effect, and plunges the ancient sword into the pool far below, sealing Dormin away once more. Having lost his girl, his glory, his home, his life, and most importantly, his time, Wander claws and clings desperately to the fleeting image of Mono until he inevitably gets vacuum sealed into the backyard kiddie pool. And with that, the journey's over, and Lord Iman, the real knight in shining robes, saves the day. Of course he's our hero, our savior, after all he went through, and after all is said and done. Or is he? Let's go back to the beginning. Wanda brings Mono to the shrine of worship, hoping to get chummy with the centuries-old homeless man living in the attic so he can bring her back to the land of the living. During this conversation, Wanda just so happens to mention that Mono was sacrificed, for she had a cursed fate. Knowing how Ueda tends to write his ambiguous stories with the intention that we read between the lines, it would seem there is more to this sentence than what meets the eye. With all of this in mind, let's consider what could have happened prior to the events of the game. Wanda grows up in a bolstering tribe of warriors and survivors, with plenty of ancient history and stories told of castles, witches, and shadowy demons. One day, he meets a peculiar, quiet, yet alluring maiden who may or may not be related to this girl, and Wanda takes her back to the village. The tribe's people are wary of this outsider, but reluctantly allow her into the village anyway. After all, Wanda has grown to become a respected and capable member of the community, and thus they grant him his wish to let Mono live among them. The unlikely pair quickly fall in love, living for some time together, and Mono, despite her curious disposition, is eventually accepted and loved by the tribe. However, one day, the chieftain Lord Iman has a frightening spiritual premonition. The otherwise gentle and innocent Mono is fated to doom us all, he mutters with a dry breath as he awakens from his visionary possession. Iman wakes everyone during the night, and the warriors of the tribe quickly gather Mono from her lodgings. Wanda fights and struggles hysterically in a daze of confusion and anger, and before he knows it, Mono is sacrificed. When all is said and done, we see Wanda travel day and night, carrying Mono's lifeless body to the Forbidden Lands. And, of course, we know how the rest of the story goes. With that, we can see it's Lord Iman who's to blame. Had he not acted so hastily to end the innocent Mono's life, Wanda never would have come to the Forbidden Lands to seek Dormin in the first place. Fortunately for our estranged duo, they live on, though in rather unusual circumstances. And ironically enough, Lord Iman may not have even successfully sealed Dormin away again. Seeing as though Wander lives on, though now with horns, who are we to say that Dormin didn't just catch a cab to his eventual reincarnation? It's painfully clear that, upon final inspection, all of these people are morally questionable, with their own personal agendas guiding their actions. Dormin, while being an imposing figure, is just a businessman. And while it's easy to shake a finger at the boiling kettle, Wander endured blistering winds and scorching deserts, going through hell and high water, killing frighteningly powerful monsters any other man would have cowered in fear of. All in the name of his fiery passion to bring back his true love. And hidden in plain sight, Lord Emon was the real villain of Shadow of the Colossus. Thanks for watching. If you've made it this far into the video, perhaps you'd like to hear a little bit more context as to why I was so vehement that Emon was our real antagonist. I know it seems as though I was jumping to conclusions, and that's because I was, but here's my thought process. The game takes place in the same universe as Eco and The Last Guardian, and there's an ideology tied together with a sort of magical system. However, given that we literally see deities and other such figures in the flesh, we can assume people such as Wander and Emon simply know these things to be real, rather than it being something they believe in. Emon is less than a day behind Wander in the journey to the Forbidden Lands, so that essentially confirms they come from the same place, which would explain how Emon found out Wander stole the ancient sword so quickly. They're also both very aware of Dormin's existence, and in general what magic is possible in this world. Additionally, they share the same style of clothing, as well as having similar symbols written on their cloaks. Wander knew the importance and the power of the ancient sword and what it could do. Not only that, this confirms that Wander turncoated against Emon for sacrificing Mono, and Wander would have had a pretty good reason to do so, besides being in love with her. If Wander's connection to Emon is as strong as we are led to believe, I think it would be pretty unlikely that Wander would just betray his people if Emon had solid proof that Mono was cursed. However, it's pretty hard to fill in any more gaps because the game simply doesn't give us any more clues than what I've already mentioned. Anyway, that was my theory about Shadow of the Colossus. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'd like to hear what you thought of it. Until we meet again.